peace is always perceived as something very peaceful, quiet, non-action at all. So we are just trying to get this idea, to spread the idea that this action, peace means actions. And well, it's a lot of struggle, but I know that we are not alone. It's something that's happening all over the world.
Yep, yep, absolutely. But you can tell us more. Today everyone speaks. So you can tell us more about what you're doing, what kind of work that you're doing in Argentina. You want to tell us some more? Or just this is the introduction you want to give?
No, okay. I'm a mediator. I'm also a professor at the university, professor of negotiation at the at one of the university here in the country. I also community mediator. That's my main field of practice. I'm a mediator of the Ombudsman's office. Uh, I started there in 1996, I think. I love community mediation. I think it's the base of all the new culture of dispute resolution. And I mean in community mediation, not only the neighborhoods, because it's always related to only neighborhoods. Community, it's the church. Community, it's an organization, it's a company, it's the school, it's whenever you have all these people working or having or somehow related to each other, that's a community. And for example, we are now working in an organization that they have so many troubles with the professionals that lead the programs for people that's trying to get out the um, narcotics. So the problem is not with the people which are the patients there. The problem is in the staff, and you know that's a community also. And we were working there, and we are now developing a project of community mediation in some vulnerable places in the north of the country where they don't have really knowledge, they are not verbally uh, active. So we have to be, for example, the same projects, the same ideas, we have to translate it in a single country with the cultural, the local way that they connect,
Yep.
because it's just like in position of the urban mediators to say the same things to everyone, and it's not what it is. We need to spread the concept, so we have to adapt every time we have a project in different places. I think you all feel have faced or are facing the same thing.
But Diana, now this is about spirituality. So what is your view on spirituality? What is spirituality according to you?
I think that the spirituality is the main issue here about how we see our work. The other day, someone was saying sincerity is the main core of this uh, job, work, hobby, life, commitment for life. And I think it's the spirituality. It's based in our work in the sincerity, in the honesty, the way we are saying and acting and thinking in the same way. We are not just doing the for the is for the stage. We have to be commitment. And I think the spirituality in our work is the commitment and the responsibility that we have with what we do. Maybe people cannot understand that, but it's okay. We still have to be so deep commitment with all our heart, our strength, our hope, because sometimes it's very difficult. We all know that also. So I think that the spirituality is something that give us strength to go on, even when people cannot understand what we really do.
Because on one hand, what spirituality does for us is one aspect. What is spirituality is something also we are discussing. So I don't know whether you had a look, I mean, saw the other two episodes that we had. So we're just trying to understand according to you what is spirituality. But we can come back to you. I mean, not a problem. I don't want to put you in a spot that way. So that's okay. But because
Sorry if I wasn't,
that's okay.
if I answer
No, it's
another
perfectly what
thing
you're
that you
saying. No,
expected.
perfectly what you're saying. Because Elaine has just come in. Elaine also does. Elaine, have you watched any of the earlier ones? First, you have to introduce yourself. Where are you from? Yes, Elaine. Elaine, you can hear us or not?
Hello.
Hmm?
I can hear. I can hear.
You can't?
Hello. Hello.
We can hear you. We can hear you. Yep.
Yes. Yes. And I'm from Brazil, São Paulo, like André. André, like André. I'm so glad to stay here. Spirituality for me, I live this. It's so important in this moment because the pandemic, we have to stay strong, uh, reunited because the life is changed, the world is changed, and we have to stay more stronger for continue this life more in peace,
But
in peace. Don't have we don't have more fight and for the mediators and conciliators is too important. Have the important job, and I believe to stay reunited with us, to stay to bring more peace and no fight in this planet.
yep, yep. But now, Elaine, are you more comfortable? Diana, do you know Portuguese?
No Portuguese.
No, Diana, only Spanish. Do you know only Spanish or you know Portuguese also? Diana?
Portuguese, Spanish, and Italian. I speak Italian.
Oh, wow. Okay, good. But I have to know who speaks what all languages. So at least we can get any translation required, anything required is available. So Diana, what you speak Spanish and Portuguese?
Yes.
Diana.
Are you speaking to
Yes,
me?
yes, 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 yes.
Okay. No, I am sorry, but I can understand Portuguese, but I cannot translate it. No,
Okay, so
not
that's
at all, because I can understand it. They're quite similar, and we are neighbors also. But sorry, I cannot.
no issue at all. Okay, so now Shukla has come in today. So Shukla, you want to tell us what you think is spirituality?
I said, I want to be a listener today.
No, there's no listening happening here. You have to participate, and I'm going to be eating, and you're going to be talking right now. What according to your
I'm
spirituality?
having a cup of tea right now.
I've also got
Spirituality is it's very relative term to me. It depends on how you look at it and in what perspective you're looking at it. If it's spirituality to me will mean something to be very honest and to do what you do in the right frame of mind and the right way. That's the principle that I hold where spirituality is concerned. I'm not bringing in the religious aspect of the whole thing. That's a different level altogether. But as a profession, spirituality, I would define it to be honest to what you're doing and to be fair. That's the limited thing. That's all.
Okay, so honesty and fairness in everything you do by
Yeah.
itself will lead to that.
Absolutely.
And Ashima, what about you? Ashima, you there or not? Ashima's gone. So David has his view on this. Yes, David? You had your view last time and obviously you weren't able to get into the meeting. David, you want to tell us? Okay, so we have people who are there but not there. Is that also a spiritual thing? So I think we have to go to Kato now. Kato is going to tell us more about what he thinks, and I am going to be eating Kato. So you are going to be talking.
Okay. I have to say something so that Vikram can finish whatever he's enjoying, right?
Yes, my lunch. This is now right now. It's 7:46 is my lunch.
Right. It's a bit late lunch, isn't it? Right.
Yeah, this was bad.
I have one video clip which I'd like to share with you, right? And let me try, because I'm not particularly good at these things.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Giving you the permission to share.
Thank you. Oh, where is it? Where it's gone? I think it has disappeared. So while I look for where it was, Vikram, perhaps could you ask somebody else to speak, so that I have a time to check.
Ashima, first of all, introduce yourself and tell us what you think is spirituality.
Well, I'm based in Houston, Texas. Okay, and I practice, pretty much I'm a solo practitioner practicing corporate law and some product liability litigation, and try to resolve disputes in litigation as much as I can. Apart from that, I also work as off counsel. Now coming to spirituality, to me, spirituality is pretty much what was said earlier, honesty and fairness in what we do. But to me, it is making peace with myself to begin with.
That makes sense, obviously. But more than that, anything else?
No, really, be just being at peace with yourself and try to make peace if possible with others.
Okay, so one is the internal peace, one is the external peace. So both of them should function together. Okay, so internal will happen. But internal will happen when the external happens, or external will happen when the internal happens?
I think if we always leave our circumstances and how the status quo affects us, then we can never have peace internally.
Yeah, absolutely. But what about your other experiences in terms of literature on it? Have you read something about it, or you've been able to relate to something in terms of reading?
I mean, I read, but I think whatever we read, it points to the same thing: keep peace with yourself before trying to make peace outside.
But are there any, in terms of religious texts, which have been helpful for you to understand anything? Have you?
For me, I refer to Bhagavad Gita every day. To me, that's the core text.
So you can tell us more about that. But look, I mean, this is what it is. You have to tell us what you think. That's exactly what we're going to be doing. There's not going to be anything that is going to be, like I said, concluded or anything like that. We're discussing it and then taking it forward from there, because right now we're just discussing the aspect of what we think is spirituality, because then you're going to relate it to being a mediator and relate it to the whole mediation process. So you will relate it to it differently. Kato will do it differently. Shukla, Diana, everybody's going to be looking at it differently. So what you think it is, like you say, is peace. So when you are a mediator, you are looking at peace. So we'll come to that later. So what, I mean, in terms of Bhagavad Gita, please give me a discourse and we'll have enough time for me to eat and have my tea.
Okay. I don't know, for me, it is all about doing what is right. Sometimes, we come across life where people don't treat us right. That doesn't mean that you get to their level and treat them the same way. You need to keep your self-respect and dignity no matter what. I've been in circumstances, especially when I was doing MBA, where there were other people, and when I'm involved in litigation where I'm the only person in color surrounded by all other people who've come with 10 lawyers, and it was just me by my side, and they try to put you down. You have to just keep your head high, and I think the judge sees you. So it's just doing the right thing every time, no matter what. I think that's pretty much the crux.
You're not supposed to stop. I have to finish something to eat. You can't stop. I'll have to otherwise unmute myself. Okay. Relax. We won't make it so difficult for you, because we have Kato who's got something now. Kato, you have something
Awesome.
now?
Yes, I'm ready. So let me show. Can you see something?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
Have a look. You may ask, what this has something to do with spirituality, but to me, it has something which sort of moves me, my heart, right? And I told you a couple of weeks ago, I'm not particularly religious person, so I do not practice religion, only occasionally. But when I see things like this, where there's a different, there are sort of people or creatures from different background, and they can be together, and then I feel something spiritual or something of spirit there. So a bit philosophical, but I'm using the word spirituality in a wider way. When I use spirituality in a narrow sense, I'm using it probably nothing to do with the outside area of this mediations. I'm a junior clinical psychologist, so I use it in a very different way there. But in the context of mediations, I use probably it in a wider sense where we all have something common. Right? And in particular, what saddens me, it makes me feel very sad, is I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to mention anything about politics there, but in area which is not far, which is between sort of Japan and India, right? Every day we hear sad stories, right? And it's really sort of it's a pain, right? And there is a dispute, right, which is probably difficult dispute for any mediator, but I always feel, at least, hopefully there will be some sort of resolutions in the near future. That's all for me. Right?
Okay, so boss, what's going to happen is this video touched you. You really liked the video and you saw you saw something in it, and you had there's a larger lesson. So same thing. Let's ask everyone else what they think about it. About what are they also looking at it the same way that you are looking at it. So I think we'll start with, of course, Lisa's there. Lisa, are you there or you just gone somewhere?
I'm here. No, I'm here.
So Kato has been touched by this video, and what do you make out of it?
No, you see, I think he's right that if we think about spirituality as it is that something that where we come together, like in this illustration, these dogs, they all know they want to be together. They want to share this experience and they're having fun doing it. And if I think back on mine, even if I think about the first time we had a little dog, and I went into the room and the dog was so happy. It was wagging its tail so happily. And then from under the bed, it pulled out its little baby. It had puppies. And it pulls out the little puppies and then it's looking at me like, oh, look what I did. You know, I have these puppies and so proud. And we connect to that. We connect to that as human beings, as that experience, and we share that even with the animals, that they're sharing their pride of having babies. Or, you know, I think also the things that we know, that we automatically know. I know when we went to Alaska, my daughter was connected with these whales. We saw the whales in the water, and she said, I was trying to take pictures. She said, wait, Mom, because in a few minutes, they're going to jump out of the water. And I don't know how she knew it, but she had this connection that she knew they're going to breach. And sure enough, within a few minutes, they jumped out of the water and we got a really good picture. Those moments when you know what's going to happen next, or you know that entity, that huge maybe whale that came out of the water is connected to you. Those are really spiritual moments. And I know, you know, in my own life, you know, I've known things, and when I know it, then I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this is going to happen. And then it happens, and you knew, and you don't know why you knew, you don't know how you knew, you just knew. And that connection, so I think that's what Kato was talking about, that connection we have with one another, but not just with one another. Because if we limit it to ourselves only, it's to all of nature, even to a rock.
Yep. But the point is that here, like I said earlier also, Lisa, here you get an opportunity to say as much as you want, and you have these short snatches of things that you want to tell us. Otherwise, there is so much more you want to tell us always. So why don't you tell us more? There's definitely more to your experiences in life, and a lot of experiences in life. So in that sense, you've ever experienced, like this is one example that you gave, other such examples where there's a connect with something which you obviously there's an unknown maybe somewhere, but there's some connect that you've had, and then you feel that this is something which is beyond understanding, but there is something to it.
There's always that, because I think I've always gone through life with that feeling. I mean, I remember being small and thinking about what was going to happen in my life. And I always say I should have asked for something bigger, but but then those things come true later on. And I think the worst, or the hardest was when I had this feeling that my first husband was going to die. And I told someone there was nothing wrong with him. He looked fine, he was healthy, everything, but I just knew. And then in the first symptom, I knew this is it, you know, and then after that, he had cancer, and within 6 weeks, he died. So to me, that was a huge thing, but it was also a gift, because somehow in spirituality, you get these gifts of knowing. I call them gifts, and that prepared me for what was going to happen in the future. So for me, that's what it is. And sometimes I get a gift of knowing, and I follow that, or I don't. But I'm also very suspicious, and I'll say, oh, no, that's just my imagination. Or maybe not, but I don't accept that okay, I really know everything.
So it means that you're actually trying to process something which actually you don't know too much about. So you're still trying to, in some way, based on your understanding, as much whatever your logical understanding of things, you're still trying to filter it through that filter paper or something like that. Or there is something there. So you still don't understand. So you don't want to go towards
I
it.
think it's my duty not to, because that's where arrogance lies.
Mhm.
Your duty is to filter it, because otherwise you'll become arrogant.
But
You need
filter on
not
what
to be
basis?
arrogant.
How do you filter it? Because these are things that you don't know much about. So how do you really filter it? Or you should just let it be and let it go the way it's happening.
You accept things, but I said you should be skeptical, because the skeptical part lets you not start, because the moment you start thinking, okay, I know it, then you'll start thinking all kinds of things that aren't true. You need to really be connected, and to really be connected, you should have that balance of skepticism and acceptance. And it's important, I think, in life we know these things because we all already are connected. Each one of us is connected, and everyone has had those moments, I think, that where you knew, or you could feel the whole world and know that you're connected to everything in the world. And sometimes they happen for seconds, sometimes they happen longer, sometimes they're big moments. I mean, I felt like when my father died, I could feel his spirit, and I knew what was happening to him. And a lot of people have felt this also, this connection to not only our moment here, but moments that are beyond ourselves. And that connection, I mean, I just knew that everything we were thinking about him was so important. And so that way.
I mean, this
But
you need to little expand on this, because this is interesting. I mean, this is actually a connection somewhere which is beyond, obviously beyond your understanding also, but you still, at least there's an experience there which you can tell us about.
yeah, the problem is that usually now you're pushing you here, but I mean, usually I keep these things very private. I usually don't talk about them. So it's hard for me to talk about it, because for me, this is a private space, that my spiritual space is a private space, and that I keep it private. So to talk about it, I'm pushing a little bit to talk about it, but it's usually in those private moments. It's that those silent moments, actually. So even talking about it seems like it evades the silence that I'm used to having in those moments.
Well, the way I'm looking
And
at Lisa is that the fact that you experienced something similarly, everyone else would have also gone to some similar kind of experience, but they also
I am
might,
sure.
no, they might not even think of it as important and not even maybe talk about it. And we'll find out that everyone has these experiences as a connection somewhere and everything, but it is not discussed because everyone, oh, no, I don't think there's anything to it. And because, like I said, the logical mind is not going to be able to figure it out. So you say, I don't want to be sounding stupid to people, what kind of the experience, no, nothing like that. So that's why we're discussing within ourselves, so that at least there might be similar experiences and some interesting things will come out from that, and those connections, those moments where you actually feel connected to something beyond what you understand. I think we try to get to that. I mean, wherever you're comfortable. I mean, if you're not comfortable, obviously, no one can push you.
Vikram,
Yep.
to take a cue from what Lisa said, I've had a couple of experiences in my lifetime, and it's been very frightening. I saw my brother's death a week before he passed away.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Mhm.
Wow.
My
Wow.
youngest brother passed away a week before that. I dreamt that he is no longer. And couple of experiences I've had where I felt, I was going for a picnic and suddenly I'm telling one of my colleagues, the road's going to bend this way and the road's going to bend that way and stuff like that. And exactly what I have dreamt. There was a phase in my life that whatever I have dreamt, I could see the replica of it happening in a very short span of time.
No, but Shukla, what you need to do is you'll have to go. I mean, I hope you don't mind, but if you talk about your brother's situation.
Mhm.
What happened to him? And because look, what I'm trying to look at it is that there is a certain calculation about things that the conscious mind and the subconscious mind do in general. So based on that, there is some output that you get. But is it based on the logical thinking and putting together experiences things, or this was totally out of the blue kind
Totally
of
other.
thing?
There's no logical thinking. There's no logical thinking. It was my elder brother's birthday. I was married, staying in a different house. So I was supposed to go to their place to wish him and be with them. And I'm feeling very tired. It was Sunday evening. So I just said, I'll come next day. And my youngest brother, he had dinner and he went to the rooftop. And there's a parapet. He normally lies in a place where there's a pipe so that supports him. Unfortunately, that day he was towards the main entrance of the building. It is a two-storied old British colonial house. The ceilings are very, very high, and he fell from there.
It's totally something which you could have never ever thought about. So there's no such calculation that could have happened based on anything.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because,
There's no explanation to that.
yeah,
And,
that's a very important. I mean, this aspect, that means there is something more to it, which we obviously maybe, I mean, if you did not talk about it, I mean, similarly, everyone would have some experiences, which obviously will come to. So these are things that the other one that you were saying, they're about of course, the car, I mean, knowing where this road goes or what's going to
no,
happen
no,
next.
no. I'm telling you, I've dreamt of a place, a temple, where the steps are coming out from the river. And I was traveling throughout my life. It was early 20s when I had dreamt. And that's a phase I went through. I don't know how others do it. But there's this phase in your life I started writing them down a bit. But it's frightening. When things start happening, you get really scared. But then, of course, with work and everything, you're able to diagnose. Eventually, after about 30 years, I was able to go back, find that temple in Allahabad in India.
Wow, this is like a
And,
movie
and
situation. Yeah, it's totally like a movie
yeah,
situation.
it's very easy. I can't explain what it is, why is it, but every time I went for an office meeting and I'd go to visit to all the temple, I said I have to identify this because if it's there in my dream, it's very vividly there. I need to find out, and I was very happy that if eventually that riddle was solved. Otherwise, that riddle was always in my mind.
So how did you find out what happened? How did you get there?
I went for since I was a lawyer and I was with Coca-Cola, so I had a discussion with the senior counsel. So we were supposed to go to his. We went a week earlier, a day earlier. So after our meeting next day morning, we had a flight in the afternoon. So I normally do this temple hopping to find out if I can find a place. So this place called Ganga Jamuna, that I think the three rivers or two rivers merged together. We were supposed to go there, but it was drizzling, so we did not go because it was high tide. So this guy said, "Okay, come, let's go to a temple. There's a nice temple around." So while I'm driving down, telling my colleague who's a youngster, who's two skip level below me, I was telling him that, I have this dream and I'm trying to look for this temple. I said there are steps which are coming from the river into the temple, and it's a Shiv temple. That also I told him. By the time I reached there, I did find the steps, but the steps were not the one I saw in my dream. So I said, this looks like a step, but it doesn't relate to my dream. But the temple looks somewhat similar and stuff like that. I kept looking. Trust me, I found that little narrow steps, and that gate was locked.
Wow. Wow.
And I don't know what, when, what, how, but can't relate, can't say anything. And that's it.
This is one of those getting those goosebumps kind
It
of
does. It's frightening.
situation.
I'm telling you, when you get to, that was one phase in my life. I was in my mid-20s and things like that. After I think my dad passed away. And then after that, I started having all of this, trying to figure out, what is there? Because he passed away at the age of 58 and he had a cardiac arrest. So it was a riddle to my mind as to where has he gone. You don't know. First time I've seen death in my family as such,
How old were you that time?
Must be 23.
So yeah, that's young. So that means that something opened up, maybe something opened up, some channel opened up, and you were.
No, I went. In fact, it'll be so interesting to know. I went and did the meditation, this transcendental meditation. So I had this yogic guy. He was taking me, yoga teacher. He took me, not yoga. He's more like into this meditation. So I explained to him this, and there were a lot of other incidents which had happened. Not this temple part, but a lot of other things had happened. So I told him that, and I said, I do not know why am I dreaming these things, but sometimes it's frightening. So guess what he told me? He said, if you start doing meditation, you'll be able to predict things. I said, I'm done with it. I
Come
better
on,
just
Shukla,
go
we
with corporate.
need people like you. How can you give that up? This is you are special. You have to understand you're special. So you have
So
to.
I said it is better for me to get into the corporate work and do my work than to get into it's frightening. That's all I can tell you.
What a waste of a special person. You can't do that. Now you have to get out of it. You have to start honing this or whatever. Is there a channelizing that needs to be done? We don't know what has to be done. But I think you need
No, I
to.
channelize it to my work. Very honestly speaking, if my team member gave me a document, I would tell them, and I read the first sentence, I would tell them there's something wrong in this document. I said, you leave it, I'll have review it and come back. And trust me, they would say, if you're saying it, I'm taking it back. I'll come back to you after looking at it once more. So
Can you imagine there must be special people like you who are doing this kind of work? I mean, come off it. That document can wait. There is so much more that you have to use this for. I think we need to, but you just said very casually that many other things like this happen. But I think we need to hear about those. So that, like I said, if other people might relate to those and they might not have really, maybe not looked at it as something special. But I think when you connect this, I'm sure you can tell us more about these experiences. They're very interesting. For you, it's like casual. For this is happening to you all the time. Maybe you're saying, but this is something which is not. I know everyone, I'm sure, doesn't go through this.
Atul has something.
Yeah, can I perhaps just share with you?
Please.
One of my experiences there. I told you earlier that I have a narrow meaning of spirituality in the context of clinical psychology there, right? And in fact, that goes back to probably 10 years ago when I was working as a solicitor lawyer in London. And out of sudden, I received an email from somebody who was a fairly good friend, not the best friend, right? And he was 1 year younger. And the email started that, Mr. Kato, I need your help, right? And well, then he said that I have probably 6 months to live because I have colon cancer and I want you to take care of my family. And that changed my life because here I had somebody who was desperate for help and what I could do. And I felt that, it's something I usually.
No. You're with friends. I mean, please.
I'm conscious that this has been broadcasted on YouTube. So
if you want, I can stop it there. If you want, I can always stop that part.
Perhaps you can stop it, right? But
I think there's so many people who would connect with you on this. I do just
Then I thought that what's the point of doing legal works and arguing for my client for the breach of contract, etc.
Sounds so frivolous for you in that situation.
Yeah. Of course, I did it, and I continued to practice as a lawyer, a commercial lawyer for living. Right? But bottom of my heart was that there is something more important in life, right? And that prompted, that moved me to start going to the area of clinical psychology, right? Because in the clinical psychology, we have to deal with, as a part of it, somebody, for example, Lisa was saying something which related to the area that I wanted to do, was somebody who knows that their life is limited, right? And then somebody have to give a support to that person and their families, right? And it's a touchy area, but in the area of psychology, this is described as spiritual pain. Right? That's why the word spiritual has life what this element to me. Right? And that's probably why when I take my hat off and try to do on the more on the business side or work side. I try to have a look at the puppies. or dogs.
Very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that keeps me a bit of a balance there.
So the innocence of those puppies is something that the innocence that they have, and they're living their life without any other thought coming at that mind.
Yes. When we look at the particularly puppies or babies, last week I showed you baby and puppies, right? There's a livelihood there, right? It's life, full of livelihood, right? Which is so precious. And it's what way, Steve, going back to the sort of mediation related area, what's the point of arguing? What's the point of killing each other, right? Where we have such a precious things there, which is life. So we are alive. So,
but what is no, perfectly. But why do you think that we are so busy in those things that we do not? Everyone is thinking about it. It seems that everyone does somewhere think about it. But why don't they talk about it, and then after that be able to get out of that daily rut of theirs and be able to look at the larger picture? What stops people?
I haven't got an answer, but another reason that I wanted to study psychology was that the questions why people fight each other, and that's a questions because most of the animals do not fight each other other than for specific purposes there, right?
It's for survival. They fight for survival. They also fight for survival.
When we look at the human beings sort of fighting each other, is that for survival only?
No, that is the advantage we have. We don't need to fight for survival.
We don't need for survival. We don't need to fight for survival.
Yep.
That's something goes more. Is that the greed, or is it coming naturally from our DNA? That's why I wanted to find out, right? And
so that means, so there's an evolution happening, and maybe that animal part of it is still there, and slowly, as some people will move out of that slowly, as obviously it's not going to happen immediately or on a large numbers like that, but there might be some move there where in your mind you start evolving and then get out of that animal instinct and the survival instinct that you have, maybe. But I'm more interested in what Shukla was saying. That was really amazing what she was talking about. Shukla, we have to tell us more about these kind of experiences.
So many of them, I know.
You have to tell us. Look, there's no time limit to this. Yesterday's session of ours, that was, of course, okay, let's not do it there because my divorce, then those papers will get ready immediately. That went for 4 hours yesterday. So, and that was finished at 11:30 at night. So maybe we won't push it that much, but at least these are experiences. I'm telling you this seriously. These are things which you are taking for granted. Maybe that, okay, these things happen, but not everyone sees that way. So you have to tell us more and more in depth.
Okay, another incident which happened with me was, again, it was a dream. I remember my dad, my mom, and my younger sister. We were going into the suburbs somewhere, and it was a village area, so it had ropeway. It had a little pond, and it had those typical Indian, those so small rowboat sort of a thing, and it had those muddy road and stuff like that. A rural, complete village it was in my dream. So I remember going with my mom and dad and my sister, and through the ropeway, we just swinging all over, and just gripping onto it. We crossed, and there were 2 temples. In my dream, it's a Shiv temple I saw. In my dream, I saw one on my right and one on my left, and I let it pass. I said, okay, fine, dream is dream. And I remember going.
But how vivid were the pictures? I mean,
I'm still clear about it. I still remember, So we were going for an office picnic, and one of my colleagues, and the bus was just moving. It was an office picnic, so I was in the bus. It was just moving around, and I told her somehow, said, this road looks familiar to me. I don't know why, but it is familiar to me. Then the bus was parked somewhere and we were told that you can just go loiter around and come back for lunchtime and all that stuff. So I said, okay, fine. This lady was called Vicky. I said, Vicky, come along with me. And we walked. And I just went with my intuition as to the road was winding and unwinding itself, going all over. So we followed my instinct. I came to a road where the roads were much better off then, but it was not really big for big vehicles. It was small motorway. I saw a small pond. I saw that a bridge had been created with a lot of mud being put on top of it, and they created a bridge, and it didn't have any guardrail or anything like that. And it was, of course, now motorable. And I did see a small boat at the corner. So I said, okay, let's cross over. I remember there were 2 temples. Let me see what it is. I crossed over. The only difference I found, there were 2 Shiv temples, incidentally. But I found one adjacent to the other. And I visited both the temples and I came back.
Wow.
And then I passed that.
But what happens at that point of time? And when you're in that moment, is it, I mean, what is that feeling like when you're seeing something which you've already seen earlier? But it's, I mean, something going through your head at that time. I mean,
yeah, it did. For a moment, at that time, I was feeling very happy that what I dreamt is coming true. And that I saw it. And that turned out a reality very, very fast. So it wasn't too long. My bigger excitement was when I went to the Shiv temple in Allahabad in 2019.
and what is the gap between the dream and the actual?
Must be about 30 years.
Wow, 30 years.
Yeah.
And that whole image.
For the 30 years, I've been going to all of the temples because folk had its meeting in nooks and corners and all, and they had their clouds. So I would go to all the temples that is possibly there, and I would try to look to see whether there's a river around, And eventually, I did get.
There was some signal being sent to you, and now you just went there, saw that, and moved off. Okay, this is casual. This is not casual. Maybe there's something more to it. You're supposed to do something more on this.
No, I'm just telling you the temple part of the whole thing. I mean, there have been times when I got up in the morning and I dreamt that, I used to stay on off Park Street in Calcutta. I don't know if you, most of you know, it's a big street. I was, I think, 19 years of age, if I remember distinctly now. Just finished my class 12. I was waiting for college to start. And I dreamt that there was some riot. These riot police guys were standing on the roads, both sides of the road. They had those big shields and the guns, and they were standing and across the roads, both sides, this side as well as the other side, And I was 19 years of age, or you're capable of doing tuitions only. So I had one tuition, so I was going to the person's place. After I finished my tuition, that was around 3:30, 3:45 in the afternoon. And I was walking down towards another place where I would give tuition. Trust me, in my dream, I saw that scenario on Park Street. There is a street which is parallel to Park Street called Theatre Road, Shakespeare Sarani. And I saw exactly the same scenario on that road, which was within 2 or 3 days of my dream.
Wow. And this which year is this happening?
19. So that was almost 41 years ago.
But was there any chance that you would have someone would have discussed this with you, that something like this is happening? Nothing, out of the blue. So, anyone else relates to these kind of things, please, you can put your hand up, you can start talking.
Yeah, Kathleen is there.
Kathleen.
Good morning, everyone. I didn't think that India had daylight savings time. Yes, as some of you know, I was not raised by my birth father, and I did not meet him until I was in my 30s. He was a Marine, worked in the Pentagon. And in the 70s, when I was in high school, I had what I thought was a nightmare. And I was standing in front of a church door, putting my hand out to the door to open the door. And every time I would touch the door, I would be struck down to the granite steps and told that I wasn't allowed to enter yet. And then my dream would be over. Well, in 1996, when my birth father died, 30 years later, I went around to the front of the church in Newport, Rhode Island, just to take a picture of it. And it was the church from my dream. It was the church where I was never allowed to enter. And because now my father, that I didn't even know about, had passed away, it was the proper time to enter. In addition to that, I saw my father after he died. My girlfriend and I, within 3 days of each other, saw our fathers that passed away. And I saw my father on a Wednesday night. I'm a Christian. I was in church on Wednesday. I'm a fundamental Christian. And my father appeared to me kind of like on a sideways escalator, just zoom. I've had it happen twice, once with a past high school student that died, and my father as well. And in the spiritual realm, in my experiences, we have spiritual ears and eyes and all of that as well. So I looked up at my father when I saw him, and I, in my mind, I went, Dad, you look happy. I was always witnessing to my father as a Christian, because I know, our religions, we believe in there's another place to go after we pass. Physically, we go somewhere else. And I remember exactly what my father said. He was smiling. My father was, at the end of his life, was a 1-star general, and he never smiled. And I said, Dad, you look happy. And he said, thank you for enduring my scorn while I was on earth, daughter. He said, use my worldly possessions for heavenly good. And when God is done with you, I will come for you. And I was like, okay. And then he just kind of backwards disappeared. So I am, telling my husband about all of this, and I was just shocked. This was probably like 2000. My father died in 96, and this was maybe, I don't know, maybe 98, 99. And Sunday morning, I go into my woman's Bible study before church, and my girlfriend is there, and she said, oh my gosh, I have something to tell you, everyone. Maybe there's 13 of us in the class. I saw my father. She was driving an old beat up truck up near Camp David. Camp David, where our American presidents go to oftentimes have, summit conferences, is in Thurmont, Maryland area. It's up on a mountain. It's very dark. There's no street lights. And she got a flat tire. And when she was crying and kneeling near her flat tire, her father appeared and gave her the directions how to change her tire to her Ford Bronco beat up truck. And after she was done, she turned her head to thank her father, and he had disappeared. And I could not believe this. I said to her, what did he look like? Because I wanted to know if what I saw was what she saw, what she had seen as well. And it was exactly the same. My father, his face was the same, his hair was the same, but from his shoulders down was just glistening white robe. I couldn't see anything else. And when she said, well, his face was the same, his hair was the same, and from his shoulders down was a glistening white robe. And I went, oh my gosh. And so then I told my story. And I agree with you, Vikram. I think that telling these stories, these spiritual experiences, because we're part carnal, we're part spirit. I think, why we fight and war with each other is because our carnality is overriding our spiritual abilities. And we're part and part, this side of eternity. And I think it's good to share. It's a bit exposing. And it eventually ends up making sense, like finally seeing the temple in real life, or finally seeing, but I think spirit does propel us into these dimensions when it needs to, or when we need it to for some reason. And that's my story.
That's that's an experience. That's an experience, not just a story. It's just an experience which you obviously then but after that, then obviously you got this experience. Then did it change the way you looked at anything, or just life went on after that, just the way it was?
I was, the same thing happened. This is a better story, actually, because this story had a beautiful purpose. I was a high school teacher, a health teacher for 23 years. I had co-ed classes, and I was very close to my students. And there was one student that I was so close to, and she was in a car crash and died when she was in 10th grade. And she did not have a good relationship with her mother, so she would come talk with me, and she was killed. They called me when I was off hiking in the mountains in Paw Paw, West Virginia. And when I got back, there was a message on my phone that she had died, and I just wept. And when I went to her funeral, I just couldn't stop touching her hair. I never touch anybody in a casket funeral. Well, I couldn't stop it. And I was just weeping. So the same thing, one night when I went to lay down next to my husband in bed, Melissa was her name, showed up the same way, like this parallel zoom right up in my face. And she said, "Hi, Mrs. Leedy, can you do me a favor?" And I said, "Hi, Melissa, of course," in our mind talking to mind. And she said, "Please tell my mother that I love her." And I went, "Okay, Melissa, I will." So I'm like, talk about, oh my gosh, it's one thing to have an experience for yourself. It's another thing to deliver a message.
Oh, but
So,
that's
there's
important.
knowledge.
Okay, I mean, that's important. That means only some people can deliver the message, that means.
Right. So that's okay. You have knowledge of something, but then you have to have the wisdom, like mediation, the wisdom to apply, your knowledge or the reality of what's happening at your mediation table. So I went on for weeks, and finally I was walking up the steps to do lunch duty as a teacher, and her mother was right there at the top of the steps. And I'm like, uh-oh, this must be the moment. And so I said to her, I went in really slow. I said to her, "So how have things been going?" And she goes, "Oh my gosh." She goes, "I think Melissa's trying to tell me something." Melissa's favorite song had been coming on all by itself in the choir room. When the choir teacher would go to lunch, he would turn the music, the instruments off, and he'd come back, and Melissa's favorite song would be on. People would be driving in their cars, and their radios would turn on, her close friends, to her favorite song. And her parents would go to their home, and they'd walk into the radio on playing Melissa's favorite song. And Cindy, her mother, who I knew very well, was like, "I think she's trying to tell us something." And I said, "I think I might have what she might be trying to say." So I told Cindy what happened. And believe it or not, she burst into tears, and she said, "It's true." She said, I knew that she did. And I said, "What do you mean you knew that she did?" She said, "I knew Melissa loved me, but because they were so combative with each other, Melissa, even as a young girl, and she died at the age of 16, she had never told her mother that she loved her, because they were always fighting, always being competitive. No, in relationships, when you have a lot of rules and a lot of competition, it pushes the love down. It's this equating, it's this teeter-totter experience. You can't have a lot of rules and feel the love. And I just burst out into tears. I could not believe. But it was my love for Melissa, like what Andrew said yesterday, the love goes on. His son is dead and the love goes on. Well, my love for Melissa went on, and she knew it. And I was the one that she trusted that message with. And, you have those moments, and then of course the importance of it and the feeling of it drifts away in time, but you know there's spirit, that there's something out there larger than ourselves.
Yeah, that's what basically, that's what I'm saying, that if we talk about it, obviously there will be more such stories that people will be able to tell us. And then definitely there also, like you said, there's a connection, what she said about her father and what you said about your father. Those pictures are the same, both of you had. So I think main thing is and maybe everyone doesn't have it. I'm not saying that everyone gets that kind of a situation, but I think if anyone else can relate to this, some similar experience, please just say something. You can. Rosalia, what do you say? You have something to say?
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Thank you, Kathleen, for sharing that. It's beautiful. And Shukla, I do have something along the same lines that's happened to me. Actually, I have had several experiences. When I was in law school, I was engaged, and my fiance was terminally ill. He died in 1995, and I was his caregiver for 3 years, and before he passed away, anyhow, I took care of him, and my objective was that he go in peace, because he was estranged from his father. So I said, I have to make them make peace. I want him to leave. I'm also of Christian principles and practices, and for me it was very important. I just wanted him to go away, to pass away in peace, basically. So I did everything that I could, and his father was at his deathbed. That was an experience for me which completely changed my life. My objectives with respect to the legal profession, and I think it brought me into mediation. Anyhow, after he passed away, I had completely neglected myself during those 3 years and my health, to the point where after he passed away, my health started deteriorating because we don't realize the stress that's in our body. And my body started breaking down, and I became very ill. But we couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I went to different doctors. I went to a lot of doctors, and I kept getting sicker and sicker. And I had lost so much weight. And I remember one night I was in my bed. I knew I was basically, if we didn't find a cure, I was gonna be gone too. So I remember one night being in bed and I couldn't sleep, and I was thinking, okay, so if I go, I'll just go meet him. That's all. It's a big deal, because we had said our goodbyes, 3 years before when he had passed away. And then I still remember in the middle of the night, I felt this presence in my room. And it wasn't the first time, because even when he had passed away, I could regress right now. When he had passed away, I felt this presence for at least a month around me and in my room. And also when we were in law school, we were living in residence. He had his room, I had mine, but I could feel him in my room in law school when I went back to my residence room. I remember I could feel him. One night I even spoke to him. But getting back to that particular night, I felt his presence. When we were dating, he would always give me one rose. He never gave me a bouquet. He would always give me one rose. He said, you only need one, to express his love. Okay. I never got a bouquet of roses from him, but that one rose was very significant. So I used to keep his roses all the time. I would press them and keep them in my books and whatnot. So that one night, that particular night, when I was contemplating, I was thinking, okay, so if I pass away, I will. It's a big deal, All of a sudden, I felt his presence, and I saw a light, and I saw a rose. I saw a pink rose. He used to give me always red roses, but I saw a very pink rose, and it was surrounded by light, and it was in front of me, and I felt his presence. So I remember sitting up in my bed, and I'm like, oh, wow, you're here. And I was talking to him. And I guess I must have been speaking to him in my mind. And I just felt so much at peace. And then I knew that I was going to be fine. I just felt like it's all going to be fine. You're going to be just fine. Your time hasn't come yet, and you're going to be fine. So, within a few days, because I went to so many different specialists and they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And within about a week, I came across the right specialist, and he turned everything around, because I had my immune system had completely shut down. And that summer I had gone to Italy on a trip. And I don't know what I was bitten by or whatever. And I ended up getting infections. I think I had over 1,000 viruses in my stomach. I couldn't keep anything down. I was so underweight. I was literally disintegrating, and I started getting blotches all over. And I still remember one morning I went down. At that time, I was living with my parents. I went down to have coffee, and my father took one look at me and he flipped. He says, "Oh my God, what's wrong? You have blotches everywhere." I had, because your body can't fight anymore. And anyhow, so I found the right doctor, and as it turned out, he had worked overseas, and somehow he knew about these kind of conditions, and he said, "I'm going to try something with you. I'm going to try some medication, and it's 50-50. We'll see if it works, And I said, "Okay, give it." I'm there, you watch me. So I remember telling him, "We're going to turn this around. I'll be just fine." And he says, "You keep that, you keep that positive attitude." And I said, "I know I'm going to be fine." I already knew because of that experience that I had, that visitation. And lo and behold, I'm in great health. I mean, I'm in better health now than I was in my younger years. And I'm in great health, actually. And I see him once a year, and he flips. He says, "You're a walking miracle." He keeps telling me that, and this is coming from a doctor, a scientist, and you can't explain it either, But I know, I just, that's the kind of, I've had a lot of experience. I've had several experiences like that, but that was the one that marked me the most.
Tell us about the others also. I mean, this is very nice. I mean,
well, that same year, I went again. I used to go to Italy a lot because well, there were 2 years in a row when I was quite ill. My aunts would say, "Come over, come." I have aunts in the southern part of Italy, and they would say, come and spend a week or two or even a month, with us. And, you need rest. And on my mother's side, they're in southern Italy. It's beautiful. The coastline, the beach is absolutely in Sicily.
Okay.
I remember going there, and my aunts, when they saw me, because I was so underweight, they were feeding me almost with, you can imagine. They kept feeding me.
It's an important, like I said, it's an important part of their life, that aspect.
You have to eat. They would, you have to eat, and then you have to go nap. I learned the importance of napping in the middle of the afternoon, which I love very much.
All the nice things you were learning there. Lots of eating, lots of sleeping.
Yes, and I would walk to the beach, which was absolutely beautiful. But within a week that I was there, I remember I used to go to church with my aunt. We'd go to mass, and I saw on the church door in the hall, in the entranceway, there was a bulletin for a retreat, and it was in it's a place called Monterice. If ever you go to visit Sicily, this place is absolutely magnificent. It's up on the mountains. It's where they go there for the summer. A lot of Italians go there for the summer because it's cooler. It's the elevation is very high. It's outside of Trapani, and when it's like a medieval town. And so I said to my aunt, I said, I would like to go to that retreat. And it was at they call it the House of the Bishop. Anyhow, I inquired about it. I said, I wouldn't mind going. It looks interesting. So I decided to go. And when I went to this retreat, I was given such a beautiful room. I had the view of the whole Mediterranean. Oh my God, it was just magnificent. I actually have a picture. If I ever find it, I'll have to, you'll see how skinny I was. Anyhow, at that retreat, I was surrounded by, I call them mamas, like these Italian ladies. And they were saying, "You have to eat. You're too skinny."
You have to say it in Italian. Mangiare, whatever.
Devi mangiare. I never ate so well in my life. The food was absolutely incredible. I mean, because this was called the House of the Bishop, but it was like an inn, and the cooking was just fantastic. I mean, the food, I have never tasted, fresh seafood and all kinds of local culinary cuisine, but I mean, it was excellent. So I had these ladies that were always surrounding me, and they became like my, I don't know, overseas mothers. And the retreat was it was for lay people from the church, because I do ministry at the church. That's why I went to this retreat. It actually spoke to me. So in the morning there was always like a bit of instruction on Bible and stuff, and in the afternoon it was mostly prayer. They would expose what we call the sacrament on the altar, and we would have a mass at noon, and then there was the altar which was exposed the whole afternoon and into the evening. And every hour, everyone had to be inside the church to keep that sacrament. You don't leave it unattended. There always has to be someone in presence. So I went, and one afternoon during the mass, during the noon mass, there was I had this feeling. Right when during the ceremony, I had this feeling I was going to receive. We call it the Eucharist, and I had this feeling of warmth from my head all the way to my toes, healing, like a healing. I knew I was going to be fine. I knew I was going to be fine, because that was the year that I was ill, and I had started on the medication also that the doctor had given me, but I was still very weak. So it turned everything around. I knew I was going to be fine from there. And I remember when I returned from that trip, I went back to see the doctor, and he told me, "Oh my God, I cannot believe," like, because he was constantly monitoring. I was very anemic. He was monitoring my blood, you name it, and he was saying your levels they've jumped. They've doubled, like they're literally going up. So I said, "Oh, that's because." It's because I have several mothers all over the world taking care of me. But it was a spirit that experience, the warmth that I felt. I can't explain it, and I had tears in my eyes. I have a hard time articulating it, because it was so profound. It was.
But
I'm still in contact with some of these ladies.
Would you go back? Or, I mean, but what are you doing in Canada? You should be living in Sicily. It should be so nice there.
Well, I used to go to, before the pandemic, I would go to Italy every year I go to different conferences, and I find an excuse to go. This is when I was single. And then now I'm married, and we even went there for our honeymoon with my husband. But I have other experiences that one of them, that was a decision that where I decided to become a mediator was actually in Italy, and it was in Rome.
You have to tell us about that. That you have to tell us.
Oh, you want to hear about that now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Why? Of course. This is what this whole thing is about.
Well, it was the following year. I decided at that time I had already started working for the federal government. I had already graduated from law school, but I decided I didn't want to practice law in the traditional sense. I knew that I loved the study of law. I enjoyed it so much, but I didn't want to be a traditional litigator. I realized it wasn't for me. Even though I was, but I did my bar. We here in Quebec, and I'm in Canada, but I'm in the province of Quebec. We have to do bar school, and we have to do also the practical. And we have to practice also the litigation. We have to do a 6-month internship and whatnot. And I remember when I was doing the practical, my professors were saying, "You're a natural negotiator and litigator," but I didn't like the competitive side of it. For me, with my personality, I liked the intellectual side. Anyhow, so I was trying to figure out what it was that I really liked about law, and I realized it was what pulled me to it was always international law, and that's another story in itself. But I like the international law aspect, so I did specialize in that afterwards. But when I went to Italy, I decided to take a course in Florence. It was at the European Institute in Florence. They have a law course in the summer. There's one on humanitarian law. So I remember I went, but before I went to Florence, I decided to go to Rome for 5 days, and I stayed with some nuns because I used to work for an order with. I used to work in their daycare here in Montreal, and I remember that I met the Mother Superior one time, and she's actually told me, if you ever come to Rome, you can come and stay with us. So since I was traveling alone, I said, you know what? Let me call her and see if they have any rooms or whatnot, because I'll feel safer traveling alone as a woman. And I did. I called them, and they actually gave me not just a room, they gave me a whole apartment, which was amazing. So while I was there,
what was the view from there? What was the view from that apartment? What was
the view?
Yep.
No, it was in the outskirts of Rome, so the view wasn't. It was a view into the convent, but but it was beautiful.
Not bad. Yeah, that must be nice.
It was beautiful, but I didn't know at that time, the week that I was there, that so I was there for a week, and then I was going to go. I was going to take the train to go to Florence to start my course on the Monday. Now on that Sunday, the last day that I was there, I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to Mass at the Vatican. But I didn't realize that at that time, that day, on that particular day, they were sanctifying Padre Pio, which he became a saint. He was a mystic from that time, from former times. But they were canonizing it. So I'm on my way to the Vatican. And I remember the nuns asking me, can you bring back a pamphlet, commemorative pamphlet of the canonization? I said, I can't believe I'm here people came from all over the world. You couldn't get into the square. The square was, the Vatican Square was so packed with people that you could not get in, and you couldn't go near it. And it was so hot. I remember people were fainting from the heat. It was the summer of, I think it was 2002. That summer, there was a very, very terrible heat wave in Europe, in Italy and in France, where people they passed away from heat strokes. So I remember trying to get into the Vatican Square, and I couldn't. And I met a lady on the bus going there. Again, I for some reason, I don't know why, I would always meet these elder Italian ladies, and they would always take me under their wing. But I don't know. I don't know what it was. So we started talking, and she said, she goes, oh, you come with me. You come with me to, we'll stand together and we'll watch that. We'll assist the Mass together. I said, sure, fine. So we were trying to get into the Vatican, and we couldn't because there were so many people. And I remember she was from there, so she knew her way around. She took my hand. She went up to the Swiss guards, and they told her, go on la via della conciliazione, which means conciliation. That's this. And I had been praying at the time. I had been asking God for a sign. I said, give me a sign. I'm at a crossroads. I have my law degree. I'm working for the Canadian government. I need a sign. I need to know where I'm going to go, where I'm going to use. I just use whatever talents I may have. Use me for whatever you want. Okay, where do you want me to go? What do you want me to do? I'm open. But give me a sign. I have to figure this out because I invested so much time and energy in law school. Like, am I making the wrong decision, getting away from litigation? Where do I go? And so we ended up. I remember the Swiss guard telling her, you know, go on la via della conciliazione, which means conciliation. So she takes my hand, and we were you know, she was quite pushy, you know, and we ended up right by, you know, there's what it is the square in the Vatican. There's and then the Pope usually comes out at the end of the Mass. He goes on his Pope-mobile and he goes down this street, which is called La Via della Conciliazione. At the time, it was Pope John Paul II, just before he died, a few years before he passed away. And I had seen him also when I was younger, in my younger years here in Montreal. But anyhow, that's a story in itself. So she just takes me, and she was so pushy that we ended up right where the by the barriers. But I didn't realize. I look up, and right before me, I'm on La Via della Conciliazione. The cross street is Padre Pio, and in front of me there's the Canadian flag. There was the Canadian embassy. I said, if that's not a sign, I don't know what is. And then the Pope came down. The Pope comes at the end of the Mass. The Pope came down on his Pope-mobile, and I swear to you, I could almost touch him. That's how close we were. And we eyeballed each other. And I had this feeling. It's just like, you know, because he's giving his benediction, his blessing. And I said, oh my God, I just got my blessing. Like, it was, I said, if I really got my sign there. It was, what an experience. It was just unbelievable. And then at the end of the Mass, you know, at the end of the ceremony, all this, and I remember the lady saying, okay, now I want you to come home. I want you to meet my son. And I was like,
if something had happened with his son and something happened, you got married or something there, that would have been like another direction.
No, I said I would love to. I told her I would love to, but I can't.
That would have been another story by itself.
I had to return, I had to get back to pick up my luggage, because then I had to catch my train later that night, because I was going to Florence, because I was starting my course the next morning in Florence.
Maybe there was something there waiting for you to happen. Who knows?
But,
with that son.
It was too funny. I mean, it was just, I mean, I had asked for a sign, and it couldn't be clearer than that for me. That was my experience.
Interesting. But no other visitation happened after that. Visitations with your boyfriend, earlier boyfriend. No visitation by him or something like that. Those experiences. Anything else?
I did have in my dreams. I did actually, because I'm now married. I didn't think I was ever going to get married. After that, because he was the love of, at that time, I felt he was the love of my life, and I said I was very, very fortunate to have met him. What an experience! I mean, it's because of him that I ended up in law school. Because I felt like he came into my life, to put me on that path. But I never thought that I would be married, and I am. I never thought that I would meet another person that I could love with all my heart and just as much. I mean, I've been very fortunate.
But when did that happen? When did this marriage happen?
Oh, not long ago, 2015.
Okay. So, but how did that happen? What was it? Was there a connection somewhere? Some sign that you got? What was that about? Was it something that?
Well, the thing is, there were signs. It's funny.
No, it's not. You have to tell us now. Yeah.
Well, first of all, when I met my first fiance, we met at when I was an undergrad in political science at the time at Concordia University, which is downtown in Montreal. And I used to, that's where we met. And
you can use name. You can use his name. You can use his name. I think
his name was, he was a Chilean origin. His name was Guillermo. We used to call him Chemi. Okay. Well, we met at Concordia. We had our classes together and whatnot, and we became good friends. And then we used to study together. And then we realized that there was more, and we dated, and then we ended up in law school. And anyhow, that's a story in itself. What a journey. But I remember, after he passed away, I mean, it took me a long time to get over him, over 10 years, because I never sought therapy or anything like that. I was resigned to the fact that I was fine, because I said, you know what, I had the love of my life. It's fine if I don't meet anybody else. It's fine. It's fine with me. I started traveling a lot, and I focused on my studies. And I had promised him that I was going to finish law school, because when he passed away, we were literally in the middle of law school. Because when he had to tell me that he was terminally ill, it was just before when he found out, it was just before my final exams, and he told me in January, not final exam, final exams for that year. But he only told me in January because he didn't want it to affect my exams. That's how selfless he was. What an unbelievable person. The kindest person you've ever met. So I remember we used to study together at Concordia, and we would study at the library. And they built a new library across from the building where we had most of our classes together. And I remember one Sunday, what I used to do is I was a loner a lot. I would go for long walks and journal, sit in my gift to myself was that I would go on Sundays, I'd go and sit in a beautiful park, and I would start journaling, and it was just very cathartic for me. And I remember walking by the hall building where we used to study, and I'm looking, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is where it all began so many years ago. And I said, it was wonderful the way we met, how the friendship developed, and then the relationship just evolved, into a romantic relationship. And what a journey we had. And I was thinking, I'm thinking, and I'm talking, and saying, my God, how wonderful it was. You brought me, thanks to you, I ended up in law school, and I ended up also doing an internship at the UN. And then I was also, I ended up studying international law because of you. It's like, you opened the world to me, So as I'm thinking that, I was saying, but I think I'm ready now to meet somebody. And who was walking behind me? My husband. My husband was behind me. And he had not noticed me. I didn't know this. He told me afterwards. He had noticed me for a few years. He'd say hi to me all the time, and I would ignore him. We would get bumping into each other downtown. I would completely ignore him. He also had noticed me because I was, as a student, I was working in a big department store in Montreal. A beautiful department store, and he used to come and pick up the clothing to bring to the tailor. He used to work for a tailor. He was hilarious, and he would say hi to me on the street, and I wouldn't answer him. So anyhow, I'm walking by the hall building. I'm thinking, I said, I would love to meet somebody the same way I met you, just slow, start just calmly, just let the relationship evolve from a friendship to simple. I can't rush into anything. And he's walking literally behind me. He comes in front of me and he says hi to me. He says hello. And I answered him. I said hello, but I was very shy. I was like, wow, what a handsome guy. What a handsome man. But I was shy, and he realized it. So he realized he didn't want to jeopardize, and in his mind, he told me afterwards, he said, I knew that if it was meant to be, I would keep bumping into you, and eventually I would, something, if it was meant to be, we would meet up again. And lo and behold, we did, because I wasn't ready at that time yet. I still wasn't ready.
You weren't.
I was just beginning to realize that I would be ready to start meeting someone to have a relationship. And we did. We met a few years ago, a few years later, and that was funny also.
Yes, you have to tell us that also.
How we met a few years.
Yes, obviously. Now this whole chain is happening. Everyone's now got involved
Oh
in the
my
story.
God! But I'm
Now
just.
you can't just leave it.
I'm taking over your whole session.
Why? It's perfectly all right. These are sessions which will keep happening. I mean, this is what we need. These are connections. Somewhere there's more to life than just what we think. There is some connection somewhere. This is what is important.
So,
I should make him tell you the story.
Yes. Where is he?
so
no?
before
Okay.
that, can I just interject just a minute?
Yes,
Because
go ahead, please.
I have this thing that I don't like to leave and just disappear. I
From
like
the
to say
world, from the
goodbye.
world, or from the meeting?
From the meeting.
Okay.
But I also just want to say something. I want everybody to do something irrational today, because today is Pi Day, 3.14, March 14th, 3.14, Pi Day, circumference of a circle. We're all a circle. We are all connected. And so do something irrational today and eat pie and have fun
Wow.
in the celebration of life.
But you're not going anywhere. Why are you leaving?
Because I have a commitment that I promise my
I'm sorry.
husband. I will only be here for an hour and a half, and the rest of the day is his.
Why can't you call him? Rosalia's calling her husband.
No,
Let's
no,
get
no,
them
no, no,
involved.
no, no. This is our time. It's
Okay.
that our time is sacred.
Wow.
Sorry.
You know what? I don't want to take over. Thank you, Lisa.
No, you
she's
go
got to
with your
leave any
story,
case. Yeah,
because I'm going to see it later because it's all recorded, so I don't miss a thing. Bye,
But I
everybody.
don't want to take. I don't want to monopolize this.
No,
this
perfectly all
session.
right. If
I
anyone has a
like
problem with that, please raise your hand. No one has a problem with that. Everyone's listening to. They're not involved now. They want to know and they want to hear your husband's side of the story also. Where is he? Is he coming in? He's going to come in front or not? Is he there?
Okay, how did we meet up again?
But is your
Okay.
husband there or is he not there?
Oh, he's here, but he doesn't want to come to the.
Why? He has to tell us what he was while he was
Hello, you have to come.
always saying hi to you. What was going on in his
No,
mind?
come,
We have to
come
hear
on.
that.
They want to hear.
Yeah.
Come on, come on, come on.
We have to, come on. We're all friends here.
Well,
Here, you have to.
Hello.
hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Very good. You have to tell us about those times when you used to say hi to her, and obviously she didn't respond. But what was there? Was there a connection somewhere that you saw that you were, or you were just stalking her, and you were stalking other
No,
people?
I
also?
wasn't stalking. It's funny. I thought that she was different from the first time we went to the. She used to work at the department store, as she told you, but I let it go, because I smiled to her. She was polite, but I thought that she was shy. So I don't like to push, basically.
But you felt a connection there. You were saying you felt a connection when you saw her first time.
I felt there's something different about her. Yes, it was a connection, basically. Then throughout the years, about a span of 10 years or so, we used to work, both of us, downtown. I would see her walking. One time she walked into the store where I was working, basically. And we started talking. Then she left. Then I saw her another time, like when she told you she was walking down the street and I was behind her. I came up next to her to say hi because we have talking in the store, right?
Which I didn't remember.
Yeah.
So
the important thing is why did you decide to do that at that point of time? We have to see, because her connection is at that time she suddenly said, okay, now I'm ready. And at the same time you come in, what was happening in your mind? We just want to understand how did these connections really happen at that point?
Well,
I mean, there's a big step that you did.
I was single at the time, and I've always been serious. I wanted a relationship, and I saw that she, from my assessment of her, she seemed like a good person to be with, So, well, that didn't happen at the time, but then after a few years, she walked into another store where I was working also.
That tells you I'm a shopaholic.
but first of all, you have to tell us your name and you have to get a place to sit. Why did you sit? And you look so uncomfortable. You're part of us. That's important. But what's his name? You didn't tell us his name.
Yeah, you have to give your name.
Yes, my
First of all,
name is Khaled.
Khaled. So Khaled, you got our names written there, but I'm Vikram, and everyone's name is there. Luckily now everyone's name is up
Yeah,
front.
nice to meet you, everyone.
So
And it's a
they'll
pleasure
introduce
to talk
themselves
to
later.
you.
Yeah, they'll introduce themselves to you later. Yeah, but this is interesting.
Okay.
I'm in the middle of a very interesting part of the story.
Romance.
Yes.
Meteor spirituality, romance 101.
So anyways, she walked into the store and I saw her. I said, that's my opportunity now, you know. So I was talking, I left, it was a shoe store basically. I used to be a salesman in a shoe store. And I finished up with the client that I was with very fast. And I wanted to talk to her. We were talking for about 5 minutes or so, but my supervisor was there. I took her name. She goes, she's gonna come back. I said, okay, that's great. So by the time she came back, another time they had transferred me to a nearby store with the same company. And basically, she bought what she had to buy.
Well, the thing is, I walked into his store because I was checking out, was it the shoes?
No, the
Purses. But I was going to it. That's right. I didn't buy anything because I was going to Italy. The
You
week
have to
after.
pick it up there. Yeah, you're not going to buy it from here for sure.
I was going to Italy the week after, so I said, let me check out what they have here, and since I'm going to Italy anyhow, again for another conference, I said if I find something there, I'll pick it up there, you know. And then, but I went back because I promised him that I was going to buy something. I don't like to go back on my word.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is where the connection came. You had to come. You had to go back.
Yeah.
But he was gone. He
Yeah.
wasn't there.
But the other store was nearby, very nearby in a department store. And she was there maybe 8 months later or so. And the manager that I had over there was very easygoing, basically. So when she stopped by, I served her. I sold her 2 shoes and
Two pairs of shoes.
Yeah, 2 pairs of shoes.
I said I'm a shopaholic.
Oh, he was a good salesman. Who knows? What was the secret?
Very good salesman.
We can see that.
Thank you. So anyhow, she said she's gonna come back. Basically, I couldn't take her phone number because my colleague was next to me, and I didn't want to give the impression that I was playing around,
With the
not
customers,
being a professional,
yes.
you know.
Yep.
So after maybe a month or so, or even less, I was coming out of the stock room, and she was passing. She saw me. She said hi. So I went to her. We were talking for about 15 minutes or so.
And I was like, you know, shouldn't you be going? Your supervisor's gonna come out. And I don't want you to lose your job. I mean, I was on my lunch break. I happened to be in that department store because I was looking for.
He was ready to lose his job. He was okay with that.
I said, to hell with the job. This is much better.
Yes, exactly. Who needs a job?
Who needs a job? Yeah. So anyhow, I said, okay. She told me your manager is looking at us, whatever. I said, okay. I said, you want to continue this conversation over a cup of coffee some other time? She goes, yes.
But you know, it didn't dawn on me that he was asking me for a date. I was like, forget. I was out. I was just.
Okay, those signals you had blocked. Those signals. Okay, those signals you had blocked. That part of life you were blocked. You were not ready to receive those. Maybe.
Okay.
So, yeah. Okay.
So anyhow, I called her after a day or two, and we set up a date, and we went. She goes, but I have to go to the gym afterwards. I said, okay, no problem.
Well, what I did was I wasn't sure. You know, how do I say it? I was very, I used to put sort of obstacle, like, you know, because I wasn't sure. I had bad experiences with other dates. So I said, you know what, we'll just go for a coffee and I'm just going to give him an hour or two. And I remember telling my friends, so I'm not sure if I have, you know, I'm supposed to meet this person for coffee, but I don't know if I don't think it's a date. And they were like, what do you mean it's not a date? My girlfriend's
Boy,
what's wrong with you? I went with no expectations, basically. You know.
okay. You were just okay. Yeah, okay. You were just someone's asked you out, and you're just going out and meeting them. That's all.
Yeah, I literally had no expectations. He's a nice guy. I said, you know, he's very interesting. He's a really nice guy, but I don't know, whatever.
Yeah, but it worked out because when we went on a date, she goes, okay, I'm not gonna go to the gym. I say, how about dinner? You know, so it went from 2 hours to 6 hours the date, basically.
Wow.
There was a connection. There was a real connection.
Yeah.
And then I was scared. I got scared.
But you have to understand from Khalid's perspective, that means there was, from his side, all these years that he was obviously meeting you, saying hi, everything. So, but during this period, this was, I mean, this was, you didn't get married at all. This was your marriage that you happened all those years later. Nothing else happened between Khalid with you? All these years?
No, from before, no, not on up to the date point, basically.
No, in between, when did I met you when I came back from New York. Well, you know, I came back and I started working at the department store as in between. That was in 1998. That was the first time we.
Yeah,
okay, from 98. From 1998 until when did
2000,
we? When was that date? That date was in 2010.
My God.
Actually, you know, just before that date, just before I met him, just before we bumped into each other again at the department store where he was working, where he sold me the 2 pairs of shoes, I had just finished my mediation training and my internship, because I had to do an internship for my master's program. And I remember I had submitted my last paper, the report for that mediation for my mediation, the master's and the internship. I had submitted the last report, and I said, okay, now I'm ready to meet somebody. And lo and behold, my God, I went to that department store because I was looking at I was actually checking out, I was checking out a dress because I had to go on another conference in Italy, because I was going on yearly conferences in Sanremo. I go to the International Humanitarian Law Institute. They have a roundtable every year in September. Our date was in August, was at the end of August. So I said, you know, there's an outfit that I'd seen. I said, let me see if it's on sale, because that would be perfect, you know, for the opening ceremony, you know, like whatever. And that's when I bumped into him again and we started talking.
So basically, you made him wait for that many years. That is what you did. Imagine, and he kept waiting. That's the interesting part.
So that's our in
story.
short, our story.
That was short. Yeah, that was short. That was short. Yes, in short. But
the abbreviated version. Well, I mean, I don't want to monopolize.
No, I was wanted. Olusola has come in. Olusola, you want to introduce yourself? We haven't met you earlier.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. You want to put your video on or not?
Okay.
Yep.
It's just that the light is not very good.
Right now we have these bright lights happening everywhere. Everyone's seeing bright lights.
Yes, the light is not very good where I am. I'm trying to.
But where are you?
Get better.
Which part are you in?
Better lights, but is it better?
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. No issue.
Okay. Well, I've been listening quietly and I found it very interesting. Mediation and spirituality, and you know, I think that it makes one a better mediator. For me, you know, I always tell people, I think some people have a temperament for it, maybe some don't, and
this part we'll come to that later. First of all, tell us your concept of spirituality, some experience that you have.
A concept, okay. My concept of spirituality, well, I'm a Christian, and I believe in God. I believe in Jesus Christ, and that's basically my concept of Christianity. I love to worship, I love to sing, and I love to dance. I believe very much in the power of prayer. That when things are really tight, including when mediations are very tight, sometimes I've stepped out to say a prayer, and I've seen that it works. So basically, that's my concept of spirituality. It's maybe like a Christian perspective, believe in God, believe in Jesus.
But you think there's a connection between religion and spirituality? You think there's a connection there? It's not by themselves, they're separate things. They're part of the same thing.
I think it's more of spiritual, I don't know if it's religion. Religion is, I think it's just having a friendship, having a relationship. Yes, I think it's more of a relationship. I think spirituality is more of a relationship with God, having a relationship. Like if you have a relationship with a friend, if you have a relationship with a loved one, you talk to yourselves all the time. You are in tune with each other. I always say if my loved one, maybe my husband, is in another room, 3 people are speaking, I would know his voice different from the voice of any other person. And I think that's what having a relationship with Christ, having a relationship is all about. The Lord speaks to you, you speak back. If you are not talking to each other, then you don't have a relationship. I think that a relationship and what we call spirituality is just like a relationship with another person who really loves you and who you really, really love. For me, that's what it's about love. The Bible says, for God so loved the world. So I think spirituality is about love, loving God and loving one another. The Bible says, how can you say you love God when you don't love your brother? So first we have to love ourselves. We have to show that we love ourselves, and then we love ourselves and we love God. That's a big thing for me. Loving one another, showing kindness to one another, and loving God, loving Jesus Christ. That's it.
But for some experience that you would have had, okay, you have all this love that you have, and you show it to people around you, but based on that, is there some kind of an experience you felt which was in some way different from what you had earlier experienced, something which was moved you in some way, something like that? Is there some specific example?
I can't think of an example immediately, but it's just, I think that's how, for me, growing up, I grew up with Christian parents who, that's what we've shown even at home, so I think it's been like that. I find I just want to be with people. I want to do whatever I can, and I think when you do it, somehow you get it back. So I can't immediately think of one experience, because I think it's just one's life. It becomes a life pattern of living, and so it's something that we go through. I really, I'd have to think about it to think of one particular experience, but for me, it's a lifestyle. That's what I would call it. It's a lifestyle. Sometimes you experience disappointments from places where you did not expect. I remember a friend, I was very upset because she accused another friend of doing something wrong, which the other person didn't. It was so painful for me because I thought all 3 of us were very good friends. She didn't accuse me, she accused the other person. But I wept so much that day because I didn't expect it, So I just think that it goes round and round, and sometimes I'm disappointed with people, but we can't. None of us is an angel. I always say that again, that nobody's an angel. So from time to time, we will disappoint ourselves, That's...
Okay. Okay. So, Diana, do you have any experiences that you want to share? Diana, are you there or? Yes. You'll have to unmute yourself. Yeah. Some experience that you would.
I really don't have any personal experience to share. But I was trying to, while I was listening to all the conversation, I was trying to collect my thoughts for myself to see how can I see spirituality as meaningful and Christian, as Ulusala has mentioned as well. Maybe not so practicant, but I really am Catholic. And I was trying to just put in a sentence what spirituality means to me, not only an explanation. And I tried to figure out, so I came into this idea that spirituality for me is the connection with our inner self and our inner kindness. And so that's why we can do our work in conflict resolution, for example, in my case, because I need this connection with the best,
But yeah.
and also with respect.
No, but all these experiences, like Kathleen's experience of seeing her father and Rosalia's experience, those experiences.
I don't have any experience just like that. I was amazed hearing what happened to you and to Lisa and Rosalia, but I really don't have any experience just like or at least I'm sorry, I don't have.
Yeah, no issue.
Any.
No, that's okay. But that's okay. So okay, so perfect. So okay, Kathleen, anything that you want to say, we can.
Well, I would like to say that's fine because you really don't know what to do. Oftentimes after you have an experience like that, it's like, oh my gosh, you don't really know how to, decipher it and boil it down. And I think life gives us what we need. But I love what you said about mediation. We do sit with ourselves at the mediation table. We do want to respect our inner self, what we're bringing to the table. And it's why I like to look at what I always say, the three narratives on the mediation table: the body language, the words, and also the feelings that come up out of someone's belly. I think all three of them need to be clarified. And that's how we can bring our essence to the table and spirituality as well.
But Kathleen, how can you even talk about the mediation table here? That Shukla has those experiences where she's seeing things and they're happening with like at that different level altogether. You're thinking of the mediation table. We'll come to the mediation table later.
No, Vikram, it's connected as well.
Yeah, that's connected. No, definitely is connected.
It's a lower level, but we're meeting with a person with their carnality and their spirituality together. So that's why I call it the magic of mediation. That's why there's magic there. Yep. So.
No, that's why the connection we're getting there. But I'm just thinking that those are interesting experiences to be actually be able to dream something or you think of something and it's then you have to. I mean, this is not normal that you go to find a temple and you find a stairway somewhere. So we have to understand those things. I mean, there is beyond us because whatever you bring to, like you said, there might be a very limited aspect of it what you bring to the mediation table. But this whole larger thing, these experiences you people have had, and isn't it a coincidence that how many people do we have here? Out of that, he hears these experiences. That means there are so many such things happening around, which we don't. Maybe you go into your daily life, like you are going into a mediation and everything. You're just thinking about that, but all these things are happening to people all the time. That means, which they're not talking about.
It's just so mysterious. You're grateful. It's shocking. It's scary. I mean, I basically had a dream when I was a teenager that went to my future father's funeral, my birth father's funeral, that I didn't even know when I was a teenager. And I thought, I didn't know what it was. I mean, spirit was taking my spirit from my place and propelling it 30 years into the future. It's like, oh my gosh, sometimes it's like, you just don't know how to digest it. Rosalia, beautiful, her fiance and the red rose that turned into the pink rose, letting her know that she was going to be well. You can really see how undergirding that was for Rosalia, and you can really kind of decipher it, what it was, the purpose. And some spirituality, it's hard to decipher. I just think, it's a gift, and we get what we need from life. And I don't always want to have a spiritual experience either, Vikram, because then you're trying to figure out what the heck did that mean, kind of thing. So.
No, but the fact that if you're open to this, maybe there's so much more that you can find out, so much more that you can receive. But I'm just thinking that you being the messenger, why were you the messenger? The direct message could have been sent, but it went through you. Why through you? Why? We have to find out that also. Why are you?
I know why, because I loved her. I loved Melissa. I mean, I patted her hair when she was laying in the casket. I've never done that before. I loved her. And she knew that she loved me. And it was a gift to her mother. It was just a gift of love. And, I say the mediation table is about love. You know that.
No, that's what I'm saying, that some people are special in that sense. And when they are mediators and they bring that aspect to the mediation, that's what we're trying to get that connection to, that everyone doesn't bring that aspect. We're talking about, like I said, the people I think have the mediator mindset, or people in general who have the mediator mindset. We're talking about those people in general in their lives also. When they are with people, is there a certain energy which they bring, which by itself maybe calms people down or brings them together, or all those things? So we're trying to get that. So first you identify the people who've had those experiences. Then we further talk about certain things which they might have thought that has helped them in that environment, in that mediation. But we'll get to that, I think, as we go along. We are going to go along, Kathleen. You have to have a lot of more mornings that you're going to spend with us.
The only thing I can think of is that life is constantly trying to develop us to higher levels, develop us as a person. I had a lot of pain when I was growing up. You partly know that story. So life gave me healing, I think, to offset my pain, maybe in equal proportions. I'm not sure, but we don't all grow up the same. And I wouldn't wish my childhood on anyone. It was horrific. I'm using the word horrific because that's the word that belongs in my childhood. And so I wouldn't want that for anyone. And if we've got people at the mediation table that have not experienced any of that and they're mediating, I'm so happy for them, because to grow through pain and suffering, especially as a child, it's such a high mountain to climb, Vikram. So we're all so different. And we are who we are. In the United States, we have Popeye, our cartoon character. I am who I am, kind of thing. And I think we need to respect that about ourselves.
No, but you are a sum of a lot of things, a lot of experiences, and everything else. So at this moment, next moment, obviously something new will happen, and you go into some other direction. Definitely, that's going to happen. But the fact is that you're not just in isolation. What you are, it's a lot of things that have happened. And all those experiences of yours also add to that, to make you what you are.
Yeah, and that's who we are as mediators. We bring our whole essence to the table.
Which is what I'm trying to put. Yeah, so which is exactly what I'm trying to.
Vikram,
yeah.
I was thinking that beyond these personal experiences, we have a challenge when we are in a mediation process, when some of the parties are spiritual people and the others are not, because we have a huge job to do to balance and to each other understand the other one, each of them understand the other one, because it's so controversial between them, because one of the parties is very, very sensitive and the other is absolutely not. And so I think this spirituality balance and it's something that even if we are very spiritual people or not, we have to deal with, because the people is there at the table in your process, in the mediation process. that you are responsible for. So I think that we have to keep an eye on that issue.
Because
When you have this kind of different persons, different feelings, different perspectives, and spirituality and not spirituality at all, it's very, you can't hold it. So it's very demanding work. Well, that's why we are there to work with that.
Maybe what we're looking at now is that, is there a certain energy that a person with that kind of look, mediations will happen. There will be all kinds of people who will be doing mediation. I mean, that's a separate thing, that you're sitting in a certain mediation and you've been called a mediator and you're doing all that. But I'm saying we're talking about people who have maybe, like I said, they're special. So when they come in, the energy that they bring in, that aspect of it, we are just trying to get that. Now Kathleen is special, so now when she's sitting in a
Well,
mediation, yes, Kathleen, yes.
So what we're talking about now is actually brokenness. When people come to the mediation table, something's broken. People that are maybe special mediators, we've been so broken by life. We bring so much brokenness in our own life to the mediation table. We get it. That's why yesterday I said we can hold the space when everything's falling apart with people at our table, because we're used to being broken and then healed and fixed, and like Humpty Dumpty, we've been put back together. And if we hold our head up high, like I've said before, Vikram, we can really heal and raise our level of gratitude in life. So we're so broken, we're comfortable with people being broken. And the one thing spiritually they have in common, Diane, is that they come to the mediation table because they're both broken. Something's wrong that they're trying to fix. So there's their common meaning right there, the brokenness.
But I'm just thinking that going through
I was meaning that the circumstances, the way they connect each other is a challenge for us, as mediator, to channel in a one-way communication channel. It's just to get them in sync with each other. I think it's a challenge, because
people are so polarized. They're coming from different sides, is what I'm hearing you saying. Someone's very spiritual, someone's not very spiritual. And how do you get them to you have to talk to them differently, and then you have to bring them together. And it is very hard. One day I was in a mediation and I said, it is a challenge. And I said this, I said, I like you both so much. You're both such different people. And this thing came out of my mouth. I said, you're like the season of fall and you're like the season of summer. And both seasons, we appreciate both seasons. Yeah, I couldn't believe I was saying this. And I said, do you think that we can create a season in the middle that you both can agree to communicate in that season? Can we create a new season between the two of you? And their heads went like this. They said yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened here? And yeah, the polarization is hard oftentimes.
But what I'm really getting at right now is the fact that, like you said, it's broken and healed. But when you do that, is there some kind of an energy which is released, or there's something about you, around you, which, not by you even attempting it, you're not consciously doing it, but is there something which kind of surrounds you? Is there something which you have someone, like Rosalia said, about getting that feeling, that whole warmth or whatever she's getting in? There's a certain feeling you're getting, and then that aspect of it by itself brings people together without you even attempting it.
I think so. When I finally got through my healing, all the healing that I had to do, people started staring at me, Vikram. And I knew they weren't staring at me. I knew that my essence of being healed was vibrating out of me, and people started just staring at me. It was embarrassing. And I realized what was going on. And I think I bring that to the mediation table. I bring comfortability to the mediation table. Everyone feels relaxed. I make jokes. Everyone laughs because I own it. I own the room if I have to and how I need to, because I've been put back together, and people feel that. They do feel it.
But you're not consciously doing it. It's just happening. It's just happening around you.
It becomes natural because, it's the four levels of competency as well, working logically and pragmatically. You get really good at being a good mediator because it's a practice. If you're willing to learn, we get really good at it. And then you have the personal essence. And that's why when I train, I tell people, bring your warmth to the table, greet people with your warmth. A mediator has to find their style, their confidence, and their courage. And we're also different, and I'm glad we're also different.
Yeah, but I'm just trying. Is there a link somewhere? Is there some energy which is similar? Are you connected to some energy which is there? All those things. We'll take it up as we go along. Maybe next time we'll have more on this. So Rosalia, thank you very much for sharing that aspect. And where's Khalid's gone? He's not interested now to talk to us.
He's right next to me.
Okay. Yeah,
He's
he
just
should also.
hiding.
Khalid, you don't have to hide.
Yes, I'm coming.
Yeah. So, the idea is that everyone should get involved with the whole. These are, like I said, this is like my living room. We're having a discussion. This is the only way we're going to have it now. So it's all going to happen online. So just be comfortable in this aspect. Khalid, you'll have to become comfortable. You'll have to find a comfortable chair to sit on. If you have
Yes,
to
I'm ready.
No, in general, I think everyone will have to just whoever they want, they can just get people involved. It's nice to have more people, more views. So Khalid, have you had some spiritual experience?
Oh, yes, I had many. It's like, after I met Rosalia, I've always wanted to have my own business, but I never knew what exactly. I just wanted to be my own boss and to fulfill my full potential. So when I met her, I was already looking, I was looking at a convenience store, looking at juice place, different sorts of businesses that never clicked. So the first time we went to New York, I discovered a comic book store there. Comic books and sports are two passions of mine, basically.
He used to be a soccer player.
Yeah, I used to play soccer back in my country, basically. I was with the team. And then when we went to New York, I discovered this comic book store that blew my mind away. I felt so positive about it. And that's how I know usually that I have to do certain things, is when I feel positive and uplifted about it, basically. So I said, this is what I want to do. And I researched it for like 5 years or so and did my due diligence. And whenever, to find the location, I went with that feeling also. I visited several different locations to see which one I want to rent as a location. Then I ended up renting one that I saw for in a span of 2 years. Basically, I knew it was going to be mine. I felt the same feeling about it.
So there's a feeling.
Yeah. So I ended up renting that place. Basically, I waited, but that's the place that I fell on, and now I have a comic book store, basically,
very nice,
in Montreal, and I've been doing that for the past 5 years.
And you're feeling good about it?
I feel great about it.
So, okay, so there's a certain feeling. This is a certain feeling about things that you felt this was what you want to do. Then you work towards it based on that feeling. So that feeling, connecting to that feeling, is, I think, what is important. I think
that's right. That's right. It's when you feel positive and uplifted about something, that's the way of God or the universe telling you, basically, that's what you have to do, or that's the person you have to be with, basically.
But you have to be open to be able to get that feeling, first of all, and then working to that feeling, thinking, yes, this is a special feeling. I think that's also
right.
Yeah, something there.
You have to pay attention to the signs and what the other world is trying to tell you.
But the point is that, does everyone receive that? Is everyone receiving it and not accepting it, or is it only some people who receive it? That was also something that we need to discuss.
I think that everyone gets those signs, but it depends on the person if they're open to it, like you said. If they're paying attention, if you pay attention to the signs, you'll get to where you want to be eventually. And your will has to be aligned with God's will in order to get what you want, basically. It's not just what you want.
I'm just thinking from the phone perspective. Supposing there's a phone which only can, well, it's a 2G phone, there's a 3G phone, there's a 4G phone, there's a 5G phone. So if you want to receive 5G signals, you need a 5G phone. So everyone can't receive it. Is it like that, or it's the same signal going out to everyone, and everyone has the power to receive? I mean, I'm just trying to. Kathleen, what do you think? Anything on that?
I think it's the mix of our carnality versus our spirituality. As we walk through life and we get more tuned in to what I'm hearing, you get tuned in with that ear to the things that are higher than us. You start to pay more attention. The more that we're carnal, the more that we pay attention to our own mind and the ways of our flesh, so to speak, our human side. We have to understand we're two. When people have died, they've measured the body loss of weight that's happened when the spirit lifts up out of the body. So we need to pay attention to both. And what I'm hearing you say is you have to pay attention where the spiritual world is aligned with the world that you want, and now you're tuned in. And I think it's a matter of that. I think people have their tuned in experiences where something suddenly happens to them. It seems to be negative, but it actually is a positive tuning fork to align themselves with the spiritual realm. We all know that after we've gone through it, because while we're in the middle of it, it's horrifying.
No, I'm going to develop this.
I think
I'm going to develop on this phone thing. I'm just saying, can everyone upgrade themselves, the hardware, to that situation, or is there a single? Everyone has the same kind of hardware which is available for everyone to receive these signals. Is this over time that you upgrade? Some experiences do that, or something like that.
I think everybody has that possibility. It's just a question of, like you said, paying attention, being open. I feel that we're very distracted in this life. Like we're always constantly running. It's a survival of the fittest. There's no need. This competition, this need for validation. We're all one. We're one family. That's the way, I don't know, that's my perspective, but I feel like we're all one family, and I've learned that. I've seen it. Like I had the possibility of traveling quite a bit. That was and the people that I've met overseas, I've met such wonderful people from all walks of life. From all walks of life. We just have to be open, and we all have that capacity. Every single one of us.
Rosella, with this, I think we'll have to develop on this, because the fact is that you have found good people because were you a certain kind of person, you were a good person, or you are a good person and you were out there, or what? I mean, is it that everyone has the same experiences? Is it that people have to look out for these things, those connections that you make? Because definitely when people go out to the same places, they don't meet the same people. Obviously they don't create those same connections also. Some people, is it a mind thing, or is it more to it? Are you open to it so you can meet, or you are going to meet so you are open to it? I don't know what. I mean, just a theory, just a concept that I'm just thinking of. And Kathleen has definitely something to say on this.
All these questions, it's just mysterious. Some people say we look through a glass darkly, when we live our lives. And I think it's a combination of what you're saying. The Bible talks about we have different functions in the world. Not everyone's a foot, not everyone's a hand, not everyone's an eyeball. And if you look at it like that, we're so individual. We have different purposes as we move through life. I think we have the ability to tune in for what our purpose is. I think we have to really regard ourselves as a very important person in life. And then our function, like when I go to Montreal, I know where I'm going to shop now for comics.
Shoes.
I know who I'm going shopping with and where I'm going. Right? I never thought of having a comic book store, but I'm sure glad that there is one. So we're just so different.
No, I think Kathleen, we first want you to go and buy some shoes and some purses.
Oh, I'm all about the high heels. Vikram, I'm 5'8", 5'9". When I wear high heels, I'm over 6 feet tall, and I'm proud.
Those shoes
proud
bring
to wear my 3-inch heels.
Those shoes bring other things with it. Those shoes and the purses, you need that to come to you also.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I have to go. This is a lovely conversation.
I think we'll at this point, we can close it at this point of time because my dinner has not happened, and I'm like I told you, the divorce is going to happen very soon if I don't. If I have 4-hour session. We had a 4-hour session yesterday. If I do this, it is going to get. It is already there, but I'm saying it will only get worse. So anyway, see you on Saturday, Sunday. I'll send out the whatever detail. Please go to that group. Please go to the International Mediators Collective group, and please the invitation, the Zoom link, everything is lying there. It's going to be put there. Don't make me send you invites. Especially, I spoiled you people. I have to send that. Even then, you guys don't have a look at it. Again, I get a message. Though I didn't find the link.
Where is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Is it Ashima or Ashima? I see that you're in Texas. I want you to know that I'm in El Paso. Where are you?
Oh, nice. Actually, in outskirts of Houston, Sugarland.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Yeah, very nice meeting you too. And I actually, I was thinking, we are all, what you were saying, I was resonating with it because you said about tuning in. And I thought that's true. We don't tune in. That's the whole problem. And you were talking about Bible says we are, different paths have their own function. I was like, okay, Gita says the same thing. You do what you're supposed to do and everything has a purpose. I thought everything is the same. It's just different things. That's about it.
Yeah.
But the only thing is, Ashima, you are doing your work and you're listening to it. These are very serious discussions. You have to put all your focus into this.
I think it is the only time where I can come to work and work peacefully.
Yeah, and we are giving you lots of peace to do that. All this talk that we have is giving you lots of peace.
No, it's very interesting.
What I really find is David is now stalking us. He's been sitting there, not saying anything. And this is what we have to do something about with these stalkers. David, you can't be a stalker like this. But yes, now finally you unmute yourself. Are you going to show us yourself also?
Sure, why not?
Oh, that's good. You've done us a favor, David. This is what we needed. But David had something to say to us last time about because he could not get in when I don't hear the Zoom link thing.
We can save that, Vikram, because it's time for everybody to go.
No, but you had an important thing. Up till now, everyone else was discussing that religion and spirituality they were trying to differentiate it. David, of course, is very involved in Christianity. Whatever you can tell us about yourself that way. So he was looking at that connection very closely.
I don't want to contribute to your potential divorce by keeping you on longer.
It's almost there. It's almost there, David. Not much can be done about it.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. So
I know it's not good.
So then maybe we should
Okay, a short thing. Okay, in a very brief thing, just please tell us that aspect. We won't get into a detailed aspect because it wasn't nice that I could not. I don't know whatever happened on the link thing, what the confusion was. But I wanted you to tell us more because the idea is to listen to everyone.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to say, my view on spirituality. First off, I'm a Christian, and I believe that we're all created in the image of God, and that gives human beings continuity with each other, and that as God's created beings, that we're all spiritual beings. We have a soul, we have an essence. There's an afterlife that awaits all of us, and so I believe we're all spiritual beings as human beings. So for me, spirituality is the identity and connection that our Creator put in all of us that ties us back to our Creator, and it ties us also to each other. And because again, I believe we're all created in the image of God, so that spirituality, there is a connection, from God to us and from God to us to each other. And that connection gives us the opportunity to see the image of God within each of us. and to help us cultivate that relationship.
David, you're reading it out from somewhere. These are your views.
Yeah, these are my views.
Okay.
These are my views. Yes. Now, religion is the outward expression of that spirituality. You know, religion is man's attempt to connect with God and connect with our Creator, and you know, so religion is that, you know, inner angst coming out, trying to express our spirituality, trying to reach out to our Creator. Again, you know, I see all people as spiritual, whether people claim to be atheists and say, I don't believe in anything. Well, you believe in something. You believe in yourself. You believe in the power of the universe. You believe in something. There's a spiritual dimension in all of us, like a spiritual vacuum in all of us that needs to be filled. And I believe as a Christian that gets filled by Jesus as my Savior and Lord. And you know, and then that, you know, and my relationship with God enables me to look at people again people as all created in the image of God. So then I have a responsibility to treat all humans with dignity and respect and kindness.
But David, going forward, you would be willing to listen to people where the aspect of someone's differences in terms of religion and their
certainly
you'll be okay with that. Okay, so that's okay.
Certainly. I've had conversations with Hindu gurus when I was in Indonesia. I've got friends that are Muslims, you know, friends that, you know, Hindus. So no, I have no difficulty at all having conversations and chatting and learning about other people's spiritual faiths. I enjoy that.
Because the whole idea was, because the thing is that there are some common experiences which people would have. I mean, obviously, we're just starting off. So we had a few people with those very interesting experiences. Shukla sitting in India, Kathleen sitting there. So those experiences, I just right now want to, because without categorizing it, without putting into a box of religion or anything, we just discussing or finding out people's experiences, and then how it works out, what is the role of religion in it, and all that we can get. I mean, as long as everyone's open to discussion. If we're not open to discussion, then that's an issue. But if it's an open thing, we're just trying to figure out going beyond religion is what we will finally want to go. Right. That is what.
But in the same way, Tat, when he spoke a few weeks ago, you know, he talked about the core of who he was his faith, and that caused him to want to try to be a peacemaker and bring peace to, you know, people who were in conflict. That's the same with me. You know, I've lived in China, in Mongolia, spent 6 years in Indonesia, working in different contexts where there was conflict, and trying to help people navigate that conflict. And most of the time it was you know, religious conflict, and so helping people navigate that conflict, and trying to help, you know, people, you know, not respond with violence. When I was in Indonesia, I was there from 96 to 2002, and so that was the time with the economic collapse happened in Southeast Asia. That was the time period when Suharto was pushed out of power after almost 30 years in power, and we had riots on the streets, we had tanks on the streets, it was almost civil war. And when he was pushed out, he was a real iron-fisted leader. He was quote unquote a president elected as president, but he ruled as a dictator. But he kept the Muslim extremists, you know, quiet. And but when he was pushed out of power, overnight they went from 3 political parties to 62 political parties. And the Muslim extremists just came out of the woodwork, and so there was a rise of persecution against Christians at that time because of, you know, Suharto not being in power and not holding, you know, the extremists back, and so, you know, I'm helping Christians navigate how to respond to Muslim extremists that raped and murdered their family members, that stole their land, and now these people are living in the jungle trying just to stay alive. And I'm trying to help them navigate that conflict and not respond with violence. So what do I have to draw on? As a Christian, I look to what does God teach? What does God teach in the Bible about how to respond?
What we're going to be doing? No, No, what we
What?
do is basically not getting into any specific, without getting into any specific example of, like you said, in a situation like Indonesia or whatever, generalizing the whole thing, saying that, look, with the two aspects of it. One, you bring from religion and say, okay, religion says this, so this is the way you should go, whatever. The other is by yourself, without saying anything, you bring aspect also that you don't need anything. I mean, that then does it then transcend religion? Does it transcend cultures? Does it transcend everything? So just trying to get onto that core. Is there a
But
core there? Where
but
we want?
Vikram, before I came to faith in Jesus, I wasn't a real nice person. So he transformed my life. So for me, what I bring into situations of conflict is my faith and what I've learned from God and what I've learned from studying, the Holy Bible. And that's what I bring to those conflicts. I might, if I'm talking to a Christian, I'll point them to verses in the Bible. If I'm talking to somebody who's not a Christian, I'll talk to them about principles
Yeah,
that I
exactly.
live my
That's what I was
life
just going
by.
to say. I was just trying to say that basically without quoting.
But these principles, Vikram, come from my faith. They don't come from, they don't come from anything else. They come from my faith because that's what I've learned.
No, there's a very interesting thing you said about principles. So what we're trying to do right now is trying to figure out, could be between religions and everything, is there a common principle for a moment? Let's look at, is there a common principle or principles which are between, not just, we look, religion is one aspect of things. There are cultural aspects which are there. So, I mean,
There are similarities in different cultures.
yeah.
Most cultures, the people want their family members to prosper and to do well and to be healthy. They want their children to marry well, to have, good jobs where they can take care of themselves. And later on, they want those children to take care of them as parents when the parents get older. So there are some common threads in all cultures, of those things.
No, this, yeah. No, it
So,
doesn't though.
so,
Yeah,
so,
these are
that,
the
so, that you
basic.
can have,
Yeah.
so you can have conversation around those common threads, certainly. And I have had,
No, what I'm saying, we're going beyond that. What we're saying is, look, one is the common thread in terms of the basic needs of people. So basic needs of getting food and education. Education is a need we've made. Maybe education in various ways was always available. So, but these are, we're talking about basic needs. Now we're going a step above that, above or not, whether it's above, let's not even say that, a different aspect of things. That is, there a certain common thread which kind of binds people within themselves? So getting to that, and then to be able to say that that aspect of it can be developed, or is it something that you are born with? Is there a experience that takes you there? What happens? Because we're finally looking at people. Look, how, David, I'll tell you the background of this. We're here trying to, what we're trying to do is, we have to have people out there who, we call them mediators, or you don't have to call them mediators. We have to just have people who bring peace around them. That is what the whole idea is. So these people, can they radiate that? Is there a concept of people radiating it, or they have to learn it? How does it work? I just trying to maybe get there.
I think there are some people that are uncomfortable with conflict. Therefore, they try to bring peace in a situation of conflict because they're uncomfortable with conflict. Do you call them a peacemaker? Maybe peacemaker, small p, not capital P. But then there are other people that learn how to be a peacemaker. And, I've heard, several of the folks, that you've had, in your Zoom meetings and whatnot, that learned how to be a peacemaker. And some, they just had that, there was some event in their life that just said, that caused them, triggered them, to say, I don't want to have conflict anymore. I want to have peace. How do I learn how to do this? I think there's a potential in all people to be peacemakers if they choose to. And I think there are some that are, maybe they're more adept at it. It comes easier to them, just like there are some people, singing comes easier too. I believe everybody can sing. Now, not everybody sounds good, but I believe there are some people that.
No, I'll tell you. I'll give you an example of
singing
that you said about singing. There's one particular singer. She's obviously very, very old now, but the whole, everyone used to just say that this is like a divine voice. Now, that aspect of being a divine voice, where does it come from? Is there a concept of it being something which obviously we hear and we say this is a divine voice, or is there something which comes from within with
See,
some people?
I would say the person with the divine voice, to me, that person has a gift from God,
Yes,
but
that's
they have to develop it if they want to go beyond what that gift is in that moment. And that takes practice, that takes hard work, that takes learning. Just like there are some people that I've known that seem to be good peacemakers, but they were limited in their impact because they needed to learn more skills. They
no, I
needed
was
to,
yeah, no, David. What I was trying to get at is there a presence that someone just comes into a room, and there is something that radiates from that person, and suddenly the energy around that a person or the in that room changes in a certain manner that people can actually maybe go beyond themselves and be part of that energy. I mean, we're trying to just look, this is just a concept developing. It's not going to happen immediately. We're just discussing it.
yeah, you're talking, more mystical language than, to me, I would quantify. I would not quantify that as spiritual. I'd quantify that more as mystical experience. What do you radiate, in terms of energy? I think people radiate in terms of their personality. Some people, you just enjoy being around because they've got a very inviting, gentle, kind personality that's just nurturing. I don't call that an energy. I call that their personality. Now, what you're talking about an energy, and I don't look at people in that way. In terms of what is their mystical energy, that their mantra, their chakras. I don't go down that path. I look more at people's personalities, because there are people I know that they're very abrasive in their personality, but they have been wonderful mediators when it comes to actually dealing with conflict situations. I don't that doesn't process in my brain. It's like, how can you be so abrasive as a person just dealing with human beings? Well, they're the kind of individual that went to school for learning about mediating. And so they have the skills and they can do it, and they do it well. But personality wise, I wouldn't pick them as my friend because they're just so abrasive, but they're great mediators, So those people wouldn't have this energy you're talking about as being a peacemaker, but they have the skill of being a peacemaker.
Okay.
So
maybe, yeah, or David, maybe we can look at it from this perspective that everyone is. I mean, say, like I said, there are so many people, unique people in the world, and the two people, when they get together and have a dispute, though that's a unique combination by this themselves, and a third person comes in, that's a totally unique concept. So in that situation, maybe this person abrasive, maybe, but is required. In some other situation, another kind of person is required. So maybe those aspects are required by people, and that's maybe how it works for them. But is it, I mean, we just now, it's not about specific examples. I mean, it's more about, because things can be effective otherwise. I mean, you can take a gun and put things on someone's head and say, okay, resolve your dispute. So it's not that the dispute won't be resolved. Yes, it can be resolved, but whether it's the right way to resolve it or not is also the point. So I think it's not just a matter of looking at every dispute being resolved. Is it how it's resolved? And we are looking at those people who can get it. Yeah.
Yeah, but this particular piece, that mediator I'm referencing, that's very abrasive, but a tremendous mediator, they don't bring that abrasiveness into the mediation. So again, and that just, like you said, that just kind of boggles my mind, because it's like, how can you be such an abrasive person as you deal with just the butcher at the store, or you deal with the clerk at the shop? You're so abrasive to them, but yet you're an incredible peacemaker. When people are having, conflicts, you can help them, come to a good mediated settlement agreement. Again, they have skill. They don't have the personality, like I said, that I would want for a friend, because they would never be gentle with me. They would only be harsh with me.
Maybe,
And,
maybe
I don't mind.
They set it aside and they step into their mediation process and they conduct their process. Is what happens.
No, I'm going to beyond that. I'm saying in the world that David is talking about, where they are abrasive, maybe in that world they're keeping themselves in that way because it's something which they think that's the way to deal with the world outside. But this is their, it could be skill or trait or personality, whatever it is, which they bring into the mediation room. That aspect of them is something which definitely is I mean, it's effective. That's what you're saying. They're effective.
Yeah,
So if you,
very
they-
effective. But you know,
so how they deal with
that's
the outer
why
world?
that's why I say, in kind of answering one of your queries from from earlier, to me, was that there are some people that their personality, you just want to be around them because they're just likable, and then there are other people that that just irritate you, so you just kind of want to stay away from them. And and so again, I don't look at that as a mystical energy. I look at that as more as the person's personality. And some people are like I said, they're kind and gentle, and other people are not. And the interesting thing is some of those kind and gentle people that I might enjoy being around, there are other people that they don't like being
Yeah,
around people like
exactly.
that.
That's what I'm saying. Everyone's made for someone.
Yeah,
and that's the
definitely.
way it should be. That's the way it should be. Everyone can't handle everyone, for sure.
Exactly.
I think they should.
And you should handle your wife with love.
Oh,
my
yes,
brother.
I have to. Yes, I have to do that. I'm going to get it anyway. I'm going to get fired now. So
You should handle her with much love.
yeah. So I think we'll continue this conversation next week.
All right.
Definitely,
Thank you.
definitely, because I need
Bye,
to
Shima.
leave.
Yeah.
Bye.
I need to leave for church.
You guys have to leave. You have to leave. I'm not going to end it because you people have to. I can't chuck you out of my
Bye.
house. See you. Bye. So
Bye,
David,
bye.
if you have any problem with getting the link, just send me a message.
I will. Thank you so much, Vikram. I
Yeah,
enjoyed listening today.